Yo, Recipe Show!
Alright, yeah, what a recipe show! This is Harold Recipe Show from the Philippines, and I'm with lead attorney Vera Zambrano for our short show today. How are you, Vera?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, Vera, for accepting this invitation to appear in Recipe Show. So, Vera, this is the first time that we are talking. I deliberately avoided speaking with you before this interview because I want to know everything about you. I want this interview to be as raw as possible. So, Vera, tell me your story.
Yes, so I'm a lead attorney of the law firm, Vera Zambrano Associates. And I started my law practice when I was 28 in Germany. And 2.5 years later, I expanded to the United States. So that is in short terms.
Wow, Vera, you're so international. Your last name sounds like Filipino. You look you, you look German, and you practice in the United States. Isn't that right?
Yes, it's right.
Nice one. So well, just curious, how did you come with that last name? You are German, you are in the United States, so Zambrano sounds like Filipino.
Well, it's
I guess
actually Latin. It's Spanish. So
it's Spanish.
Yes. My husband is Hispanic, so
Yeah.
American Colombian. Yes.
Yeah, buddy. All right, and your background is European?
Yes, correct.
Right. And then, what is your practice? Why did you think of moving from a German practice to a United States practice?
Yes, so what we do is a lot of international law, right? We represent clients all over the world between Europe and the United States, primarily in contract law, business law, real estate law, private and family law, and also
Right.
criminal law, right?
All right. Nice one, Vera. Vera, I'm interested. Can you tell me about the most exciting, maybe the most exciting case or engagement or matter that you had, and that is most relatable to the Filipinos here in the Philippines, and then tell me about it.
Yes, I'm happy to tell you. So what we do a lot of high value transactions also, right, between Europe and the US. We had a very big property case last year. It was about 6.5 million US dollar that a buyer, a US citizen, wanted to buy property in Germany actually. In the south of Germany is the wealthiest part. And we represented him throughout the whole case, right? We got in touch with a lot of different colleagues, real estate agents, and also notaries. And yes, he bought his dream home there and is very happy.
So you're telling me, Vera, if I am a Filipino and I've got a lot of bread and I want to buy properties from anywhere in the world, you can help me, Vera Zambrano?
Yes, so we can help you. Like, it always depends where you want to buy, right? But we
Yeah.
have a lot of colleagues that we're working with, internationally. So when you want to buy, like in Spain, in Italy, in Germany, or in the US, we always help you, and we can always work with different teams together. Yes.
Right. The main problem usually, Vera, if I assist clients in acquiring properties here in the Philippines and outside of the Philippines, the number one question is the consideration about their privacy. Of course, there will be questions about their backgrounds, whether they come from political families or big business families.
Yes.
What is the extent of scrutiny that they will undergo if they will acquire properties from outside of the Philippines, and it will involve a lot of money and moving a lot of funds cross border?
Yes. So they will always check your background, right? Because they want to avoid like money laundering or any kind of criminal activity. So they will always check where does the funds come from, and you can also not transfer big amount of funds like last minute, for example, right? Because they want to see if you want to get a mortgage, for example, what most people have to do, right? And get a bank mortgage, they want to see where does these funds come from, and so you have to provide evidence, right? You cannot just transfer a big amount of money to your accounts.
Right. And what sort of what sort of document that is required if I were to buy a property? If all right, I've got a big, I have money here. I have a big business here in the Philippines. I have several businesses here in the Philippines. I have money in the bank. What would you require me to provide you? Will you ask me to provide you with the registration of my businesses? Will you ask me to provide you with my tax returns?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
If you're a business owner, you have to provide, the tax returns of the last couple of years. You also have to, if you have a credit history, right? Like a lot of countries don't have that. For example, in Europe, you don't have any credit history. So you would have to show where does your income come from, right? What are the sources? How do you make your money? Like all the bank accounts, you have to disclose them, right? And you have to show where your money comes from. And also your residency, right? You have to, show your passport. Like there's a lot of documentation that we will have to ask for if the client wants to buy international property.
Right. In the United States, if you are coming from a political family from overseas, for example, here in the Philippines, is there, or for that matter, also other countries, is there a different level of scrutiny between a person coming from a political family or vis-a-vis a person coming from a business background or just a wealthy person?
No,
What
not really.
should-
So in the US, you can buy property no matter if you're a US resident or if you're a foreigner or you have not even a visa. So you can buy property without limitations first, right? But your down payment will be higher, right, than US citizens. So you might have to at least 35% in some cases you have to provide as down payment. Then a lot of banks will not work with someone who is not a US resident, right? If you don't have a visa, for example. So you have to have more, like, let's say, more cash, right, to buy property in the US because the US government doesn't know much about your history and they haven't checked you, right? If you're a US immigrant, they have checked you already, or a green card holder. But if you haven't, so they will see, a bigger down payment, then how can you afford the mortgage, right? And they will also limit you in some sort of way. But you can make it
Right.
happen if you want to.
Yeah, it can be done. The next question, Vera, is, of course, if I gave my information to the United States, so for example, or to other big countries, and one of the reasons why Filipinos buy properties outside of the Philippines is because they really don't want to share a lot of information about their wealth, about their properties here in the Philippines. Here in the Philippines, once you have real estate property here, if you hold stocks in a public company, it's relatively easy to discover the extent of your wealth here in the Philippines. And one of the reasons why I want to transfer some of my properties outside of the Philippines is because I want to put a little bit of shade between that, not to go around laws, but you know what, there's value in the privacy of my wealth.
Yes.
The question is, will anyone from the Philippines, including the public, or a government agency, will they be able to discover my holdings? Are there means for them to discover my holdings outside of the Philippines?
So when you think about, disclosure of your financial, assets, right? You have to check with your local CPA or your tax consultant, right? Your tax advisor, if you have to disclose that, because it always matters where do you have to pay taxes, right? How do you pay taxes with your business? Is it in the Philippines? Is it abroad? You might have to also disclose your, all the assets, all the income that you have in other countries, right? So that
Right.
it always depends on your home country. If the government will actually know about your properties abroad, right? There's a
Right.
lot of things, not only attorneys can tell you, but also tax consultants and tax advisors. They will have to come and jump into, the same boat with you and have to consult you what you have to tell the government, actually.
Yeah, that is right, Vera. When you file tax returns here in the Philippines, when you do formal reports with the government, you have to be honest and declare your global income.
Yes.
And and when the government suspects that you're hiding something, there are mechanisms in the rules of our internal revenue here by which to learn about these holdings abroad. There are mechanisms through which they can tap or acquire information and connect with foreign agencies to get information about your holdings, about your income from overseas. But the reality is, number one, I think the government here in the Philippines, they are not very active in tapping the support of foreign agencies, at least formally.
Yes.
and you don't often see them acquiring this information and using this information in formal processes with the government and in formal cases with the government. But it is important to keep in mind that number one, you have to be honest in filing your returns, in declaring your income here in the Philippines and outside of the Philippines. And there are mechanisms by which the government agencies here in the Philippines will know your holdings outside of the Philippines, your
Yes.
income from outside of the Philippines, because they have voluntary cooperation with foreign agencies.
Exactly,
But
and there are also foreign treaties, right? International treaties
Yeah.
that they are complying. So if the Philippines request disclosure from the U.S. or from other countries about a certain about a person because of tax reasons or legal reasons or money laundering, right? The U.S. might have to disclose that, right? If there's an international treaty. Yes.
Yeah, that is right. That is possible. That is possible in theory. I'm speaking from my experience. Although that's possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
the government. I haven't witnessed any incident yet in which the government tried to obtain such information, but it doesn't mean that you can get away with it. All
Yes.
right.
Of course. Of
All right.
course.
Yep. How about Attorney Vera Zambrano? Of course, given the economic uncertainties and social uncertainties now in the world, there are slight political uncertainties also in the Philippines versus, some regimes outside of the Philippines. And then some people are a little bit paranoid and they're moving their assets outside of the Philippines and into safer jurisdictions. So, would you suggest that given in the face of these events, is there a reason for me to be concerned about the safety of my assets within a certain jurisdiction? Should I move it to a safer jurisdiction?
Yes, yes. A lot of clients ask that, right? Because, for example, in Europe, we have the Russian-Ukrainian war. A lot of people don't want to buy property anymore, right? Because they are afraid that they are uncertain, right? Uncertain times. Or in other countries where they don't know about leadership, right? Who's going to be the next leader or the next politician that is leading the country? So people are hesitant and they want to not buy new property and they want to move somewhere else or buy property abroad. So what I think is very important that it's like real estate is always like a wave, right? There's a recession, then we have the inflation, right? Right now it's it's a good way, it's a good time to buy property because after the inflation, the worldwide, right? The market is always stabilizing again. So we have, for example, we have the upcoming U.S. elections, right? And it's a big factor in the world economy. So we will know who's going to be the president in a couple of weeks, right? And it gives everyone more stability to buy, right? And we see already the curve going up again in the U.S. A lot of people want to buy, right? And the COVID times, we're almost past the COVID times now. That people were hesitant and they didn't want to go into buying new properties, but now we see actually the opposite. That people coming back. If you need a house, you need to buy a house, right? There's no other possibility. If you're extending your family or you need more space, you cannot rent forever, right? So people know that they have to buy at some point, and it's like right now it's actually a buyer's market. That means that there are more houses on the market, right, that you can choose from, or more properties that you can choose from as an investor. So that gives you more power also to negotiate the price, right? So right now is actually the perfect time to buy. It's not a good time to sell right now, right? Because there are more buyers in the market and they have more power to negotiate the price down. But so I would suggest if someone wants to buy property internationally, they should do it now, right? Before we see a growth in housing and a lot of more sellers. So it's actually the best time to when most people don't buy, it's the best time to buy, right?
Right. So you're telling me right now that given the upcoming elections and the certainty is a little bit assured now coming into the new era of Donald Trump, is that correct?
Well, I don't know about that.
Are you a MAGA girl or are you a Harris woman?
I try to stay neutral. I mean, most business owners are a little bit more Republican, right?
Right.
Because they're more Republican, like more business friendly. If you're an entrepreneur, you're more like, relating to the Republicans. But we will see what happens. It's going to be very, very exciting, right? So,
Yeah.
whoever, like they are super opposite, right? Very opposite political parties. So it's actually better for the economy if a Republican would be elected, but we never know. Like the people are gonna elect, right? The people vote, so we will see what happens. But after that, the people have stability. They know what's going to happen the next 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So like if the politics are unclear, or in some countries there's war, people don't buy because they are afraid of losing their assets, right?
I feel like that there will be more stability under Donald Trump than Madam Harris. That's what I believe. I think the buyers of the clients of lead attorney Vera Zambrano are more confident under Donald Trump than Vice President Harris right now. Am I correct?
It could be, yes, it could be.
Yeah,
I'm not
because the
sure
real
about I'm not sure about the Philippines. Are they? I never really looked into it. Are they pro? Do they have a favorite? Elector like a president at this point? Are they more favorable towards Donald Trump or Harris, or do they care about this?
we don't really care as much
Yes.
about the United States politics as would other Western countries like the United Kingdom or Australia because they're English speaking. There is
Yes.
very little intersect between Philippine politics and the United States
Yes. Mhm.
politics. But for the people who care, well, I think there is a similar distribution of sentiments as
Yes.
there is a distribution of sentiments in the United States. As
Yes.
well. For example, there are people who like Trump here in the Philippines, maybe including me, and then there are also people who like Harris from
Okay.
the Philippines. But I think if there is any real connection between the Philippines and real and immediate connection between the Philippines and the United States right now, it is the threat of China, and the United States is very much interested
Yes.
in coming to the Philippines, impose its presence into the Philippines, under the premise of protecting the Philippines from the big China, and we would like that. And it feels like Trump is more ready in sitting by our side than Mr. Biden is right now, or Madam Harris will be ever in the future. They're more concerned with other things than
Yes.
the real threat of
Yes.
war because we feel it. Maybe Taiwan feels it as well. We feel
Yes.
maybe there's a little bit of uncertainty here, and we feel like we'd like the U.S. to be protecting us anyway in the future. Whatever happens, we're not dreaming of a World War III or any
Yes.
conflict here in this area of the world. But we
Yes.
want a strong ally beside us who is ready to be on our side, whatever happens. And we feel like Trump is the one who is going to be standing by our side if
Yes.
ever that happens, right?
Yes, exactly. And he's
Yeah.
he's also like standing for strength, right? Because he was respected by all the world leaders, right? So he was well respected, and he was like not hesitant to talk to everyone, right?
Right.
So he was meeting with everyone. Everyone knew he had a message, right? He was the one. I believe he was one of the only ones who didn't start a war, right, for the American people, right? So he was actually more interested in peace in the world, right, and not to create any new war, and to also he is more economy focused, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. I think if there is anyone who's not going to lead us to war, it's Donald Trump.
Yes.
He's a very brave guy, but he's the guy who's not going to throw a punch.
Yes.
He doesn't want war. He just wants to make money. And that is
Yes.
what I want. Donald Trump. You ready?
Wow. I see you're first, like you're the first row fan. You're just a
Yep. Donald Trump. Yep. Well, the question is, are there still Chinese investors who are very keen on buying real estate there in United States or other countries, because here in the Philippines there's still many, although there were more before
Yes.
under the previous presidential regime here, because President Duterte before was closer with the Chinese government than the
Uh-huh.
president right now with the Chinese government. And then but there are still activities of buying and selling properties and assets here in the Philippines when it comes to the Chinese, who are here in the Philippines the biggest customers of
Yes.
assets. So how can you describe their activity outside of the Philippines?
Yes, so they're still like, I believe what I saw, in the research also, that China has already taken, position number one, right, before the US. So world market and world economy, number one is already China, right? It's said to be actually India within the next 2 decades, right? So India will even be, pole position before China, which is very interesting, right? So it's not going to be the US anymore. So that's very concerning when you think about, those big global players, right? We see a lot of Chinese investing in Europe as well, right? They're buying big, investments or big properties to then, have like luxury apartments, for example, right? So we see that problem as well because they're not moving to Europe. They just, they stay in China. They just invest abroad. They're buying all the properties, make it extremely expensive, right? For people living there, they cannot afford it anymore. So that's a problem that we see with Chinese investors.
Yeah. So another aspect of investing in real properties and assets, one of the reasons why one would buy properties abroad is they also want to live there. Many
Yes.
people buy because they just want to transfer assets there outside of the
Yes.
Philippines, but they also want to live there. They might want to get a residency there in that area.
Yes.
They might want to get a citizenship as well. So, would you give us any tips, Vera, about the easiest jurisdictions to which to maybe get a citizen in which I can get a citizenship or I can get a residence, or the most favorable ones? Give us the good ones.
Well, first of all, I want to say if you buy property in the US, right, in the United States, you will not get citizenship or any kind of, immigration status. So whatever you buy, no matter how many millions you spend, you will not get, any kind of immigration status, right? So at least not for the US. I'm not sure about the UK at this point. In Europe, it's also, you don't get immigration status, right, through that alone. You have to live there, right? You have to apply for, immigration status. You have to go through the visa process, right? Maybe a lot of people marry like a citizen in that country, right? Like family-based. That's a good way to get into to stay in the country, at least in Europe, yeah, for example. So, but in the US, it's very hard. Like immigration is a very strict policy in the U.S. To get to a green card, you have to apply certain categories, right? But you cannot buy property and become a U.S. citizen at some point. That doesn't work in the U.S. I don't know
Yeah,
about the Philippines. How is it in the Philippines? Do you know?
yeah. I mean, it is similar as well. You know what? As you
Yes.
said, many people, if they want to get residence here in the Philippines, they just marry. But the problem is, it's hard to be in love. It's hard to get in love. Number one, it's hard to find a woman to be in love with one, right? It requires good looks and a lot of money to attract women, and that's very hard, and very few could afford that. And still, it's harder to maintain love, so very few would go to marrying to obtain
Yes.
residence here in the Philippines.
Uh-huh.
But there are ways to get some sort of legitimacy in your stay here in the Philippines by spending on something here in the Philippines. For example,
Yes.
if you're receiving pension, you can send your pension from outside of the Philippines into the Philippines, and you get special visas for that. You
Okay.
can stay here almost indefinitely or virtually indefinitely if that is the case. You can also bring in money here to invest in the context of business, invest in industries, and you can do that to obtain investors or business visa. But if you want to just to buy property here in the Philippines alone, just for owning the property, or just for living here without the context of business, without the context of investment, without the context of working or even marrying,
Yes.
then that alone would not suffice
Yes.
to warrant you a residency or citizenship here
Yes.
in the Philippines. But it doesn't mean that you won't be able to come here in the Philippines just because you don't have intention to invest here or to put up a business here or to find love here in the Philippines.
Yes.
If you have money and you want to put it in the Philippines, there are ways, to put, some sort of a business or undertaking or an occupation with which we can use to apply for your residency or your stay here in the Philippines. The bottom line is, if you're a foreigner and you have the means and you want to stay here in the Philippines, you can virtually stay here in the Philippines indefinitely. That's the answer. It's just difficult. Yep. It's good. It's nice to. It's fairly easy to get residency and effectively migrated in the Philippines. The only thing that's a little bit difficult is to get citizenship, but probably you don't need that. Other citizenships are more advantageous, and then marrying is quite challenging, right?
Yes. But if you don't get citizenship, you cannot vote in the Philippines, right?
Yep, and that's not very important here in the Philippines because anyway, they're resigned to the fact that they cannot do anything about it. We ourselves, the citizens, are not very positive about making a change with respect to through the democratic process. Just kidding.
Yes.
You know what? Our political fervor here in the Philippines is not as hot and blazing as that fervor you have in the United States.
Yes.
I don't know if you call it fervor or passion, but we're more neutral here in the Philippines.
Yes,
Semi-resigned.
it's very biased, right? Either you're a Republican or you're Democrat. Like you have to be something, and like there's it's like a fire all the time, right?
Yeah.
So if you say something, if you speak up, you will either be bashed or offended, or people might be on your side. So there's almost no middle. Like there's not someone that says I don't care or I don't want to vote or I don't care. Either way, you're one side or the other. So it's actually very intense.
Right. So you're telling me right now, Attorney Vera, that these times are propitious times to buy assets in the United States and in other countries because we are approaching a relatively certain political state.
Yes.
And the market for real estate and other assets are ready, given that in the recent years they came down and they're about to come up. And then there are more or less many available assets up for sale and therefore driving the price down and giving us a good prospects in the future, right?
Yes. Yes.
So, it's time to get active, folks, right? Attorney Vera, I also have clients from the Philippines and from the United States as well. Many United States clients, many clients from Europe too. They have families in the Philippines. They got married with the Philippines. They have children in the Philippines. They also got divorced with their former wives in the United States and in Europe. And there are problems with respect to the settling of their estate if they die. So we have many clients for whom we process insurance claims. We process the settlement of their estate in some states in the United States. We have to coordinate with lawyers in those respective states just in order for us to get their money from the bank, the proceeds of the insurance policies, and in order to sell the house.
Yes.
So what are the practical tips you can have for us, Vera, here in the Philippines for the Filipino families of the deceased foreign individuals who left a lot of money and assets for them? What can we do?
Yes. So you first have to see where does the deceased person, where has he lived, right? In the last, couple of months or years. So, if he has been married to a European or US citizen, then you have to contact an attorney, an international attorney in that country, right? That is familiar with, the regulations, the laws, inheritance law especially, right? Real estate law. It's very, very important because if you are the heir of this person, right? Or the child or the spouse, you need to claim your assets, right? If you don't do that, the government will take it over, right? The government may just take your assets that you are given to, right, by a testament, a last will. So it's very important to contact an attorney in that country, right, to consult with that attorney and to say, okay, to show them, all the documents that you have, right, that you can prove that you're actually the spouse or the child of the deceased, and then they will tell you what to do, right? They will have to either go to court, to probate court in the U.S., in Germany as well, or they can also, get in touch with another colleague that, they work together, right, to get you the best possible outcome, right? But it's very, very important that you don't wait too long, right? Because a lot of people that we see, they wait 6 months, 12 months, sometimes even longer, and then we have deadlines, right? We have deadlines in front of the court or in the law that say you cannot wait longer than 6 months, for example, to claim that you have, you can actually be the heir of this inheritance, right?
All right. There you go, folks. All right. If you need someone from outside of the Philippines, you have claims over properties outside of the Philippines, you want to claim insurance proceeds, you want to get the money in the bank from your deceased father or spouse, you get in touch with lead attorney Vera Zambrano, and she can help you in settling that estate.
Yes.
And then selling those properties and transferring the money back home in the Philippines. And you know what, attorney, you've told us that you are the one to go to when Filipinos want to buy real estate, other assets outside of the Philippines. You know how to move funds, to buy assets, to assist in processing these transactions in the United States, in Europe, and in many advantageous regions. You also know how to help us in protecting our assets that is located outside of the Philippines, and you know how to assist us in claiming our interest from assets outside of the Philippines. Attorney, are there any areas in which you think that you can still help us that I missed? Because as far as I'm concerned, the Filipinos here in the Philippines, when they think about foreign concerns or foreign jurisdictions, the number one answer is always property, wealth, assets, buying, selling, transferring, moving my records there. And then we've tackled all of those already.
Yes.
Is there anything that I've missed that may be important? Will you tell me?
Very, very important is tax law, right?
Yeah.
Super important, because it always depends, where do you have to pay taxes for foreign property, right? Do you have to pay taxes in your home country, or do you have to pay taxes actually in the country where you buy the property? And there also is an international treaty that you don't get double taxed in a lot of countries, right? So you have to check that you don't get double taxed in the Philippines and abroad for the same property. It's very, very important, right? So I also saw like a Canadian client that we had last year that bought and sold a property in the U.S., right? And they had to pay high taxes when they sold a property in the U.S. because Canada was taxing them pretty high for selling property in the U.S. because they were not a U.S. Citizen, and they were foreigners in the U.S. They didn't have any green card or any visa. So you have to always check before you want to buy property abroad. Is it an advantage for you actually, right? And how do you make it the best way possible to avoid double taxation, and to also not to have to pay a high taxes in that country, right?
Right. Yeah, correct, Attorney Vera. I understand, Attorney Vera, that it's very important to comply with the legal processes and procedures in other jurisdictions. Filipinos here in the Philippines may not be used to a strict compliance with the regulations here, because they're not very sophisticated in acquiring properties and these kinds of financial monetary transactions.
Yes, of course.
They also they still need the assistance of a lawyer here in the Philippines and a lawyer there outside of the Philippines if they want to do cross-border transaction, moving of money, etc., etc. And many people think that they can just wing the transactions, and they don't need these meticulous processes. They don't need the assistance of these lawyers. They don't need the assistance of competent lawyers from the foreign jurisdiction, and they can just do it by themselves, by their relatives, or by any random scammer that they found on the internet, just so they could save money. Will you impress upon us, Attorney Vera, the importance of getting competent legal advice or legal assistance in all these processes.
Yes, the problem is that you don't buy a house or a property or an investment just like, any other day, right? It's usually a big investment. It's a lot of money. It's also like you get into a mortgage for 30 years or even longer, right? So it's super important that you consult with someone, with an attorney locally where you want to buy the property, right? Because they're going to protect you against pitfalls, against any kind of, damages, right? They will set it up for you. It might be a little bit expensive for you in the beginning, but it's super important. It's super, super critical. Because if you don't do that, you might get into, the hands of scammers, or you also buy something that is, not giving you any revenue, right? Not creating
Right.
any revenue. You buy in a poor area, or you buy in a bad area that you will not find tenants. You will not be able to, sell the property with, a better value, actually. So it's super important to have an attorney and to work with a law firm there, right? Because you don't want to, throw away your money, right? You want to invest it and you want to get a better return, or you want to create passive income, right, with that
Right.
property. So it's super important because that will, it's a little bit more expensive to get an attorney there, but in the end, you will be happy about it and very glad, right? Because if you make a mistake, there's no chance. You sign contracts, right? And they can take you to court if you actually don't, fulfill these contracts. So it's even a lot more expensive to not take an attorney in the long term.
All right, you heard it, folks. Attorney Vera, what are the bad things that could happen if you neglect this concern, or if you just want to do the shortcut? What are the usual pitfalls here? Tell us
Yes.
what bad could happen if we are not good in this process.
So what could happen is that either you don't get financing, right? You spend a lot of money on inspecting the property. You're spending money on traveling back and forth because you want to visit the property multiple times. You go all the way, you spend a lot of money and time, and actually you cannot close on the property because you don't get financing, you don't get the down payment. You spend a lot of money maybe on people that are not equipped, right, and not experts in that field, and that costs you a lot of money, right?
Right.
And you don't get the property in the end because it should be fun to actually buy property and to invest, right?
Yeah.
But if you're doing it the wrong way, you just lose money, right? You lose a lot of money.
Yeah, it should be fun. It should be like shopping. You don't go to Louis Vuitton not to have fun. It should be happy, and you should obtain the assistance of the sales lady for you to have fun looking at items. All right, that is true, folks. If you want to do transactions from outside of the Philippines, don't skip on competent legal or consultancy advice. Get a competent lawyer to assist you. There is a lot of value added with a professional advice. They help you with financing. You don't have to shell out money immediately.
Yes.
They can save you with, they can help you with your liquidity. They can ensure that you're buying in prime locations.
Yes.
They ensure that maybe there is some financial advice put in that too, right? So they will help you choose the right assets to give you the best income.
Yes.
You're not giving scrap assets or trash assets that won't have any value
Exactly.
many years down the line,
Yes.
right? So there's a lot of value added in retaining a lawyer or a professional to advise you throughout this process. There is
And also, yes, very important, they will do market analysis, right? They will show you, they will show you which, locations, which areas are gonna, increase in value even more. It's not always the big cities, right? Sometimes there are other areas where, like, for example, like big companies are moving, right? Big companies are establishing, headquarters there or moving their branch. So that creates a lot of jobs, and it creates a lot of new people looking for houses, and the house prices are going up, right? So you want to also know in advance in 10, 20 years, what is going to be a prime location or a very high volume and a high quality area to live and to buy a property.
Yep. All right. You got it, folks. Okay? Do not do it on your own. Do not do it with a friend. Do not do it with a relative. Do not do it with just anyone whom you found on the internet.
Yes.
Do it with someone who knows how to do it. You may spend a little in the beginning, but trust me, in the end, it is a safe spending of your money. It is an investment that will bring you maybe, yes, no, or at least a safe return in the future, safety of your investment right now and in the future with an investment with a professional consultant, legal consultant at this moment. So, we have here lead attorney Vera Zambrano enlightening us on how to acquire properties from outside of the Philippines. She can help us with any transaction from outside of the Philippines. Get in touch with lead attorney Vera Zambrano. Will you tell us, please, how to find you and how you could help us move this wealth that we have here from the Philippines, move it from outside of the Philippines, and help us protect it from anyone who might want to get it from us?
Yes, so my law firm is all over the internet, right? You can type in on Google. We have a couple of websites. We are also on YouTube, right? So you can, check it out. It's www.lawyer-berlin-miami.com. So you can just Google that and see our websites. Our offices are available 24/7, right? So because we have a lot of international clients, and also when we're talking, it's early in the morning for you. It's late at night here in the U.S., right? So that's why we have to keep our offices always open to reach our clients at the end of the world, in different areas of the world. So that makes it very, good for everyone to get in contact. And you can send us, messages. You can call the offices, and you can get a very shortly a consultation appointment within the next day, usually, right? So we can consult you as quickly as possible and see if we're matching and if we're a good fit for you.
All right. How does it usually work, attorney? If I were to consult with you, should I? The process here in the Philippines is if you want to speak with an attorney or if you're interested in availing of the services of the attorney, you schedule a consultation first. The consultation is paid. You get in touch with us through our channels, and then we schedule consultation. And then after that consultation, we'll see if there will ever be an engagement that will happen between the two of us. Is that the same way with you? And how much is the consultation?
Same way. Exactly, that's the same way. You get in touch with the office. We set up a very shortly consultation appointment, right? And then after that, you can decide, okay, do you want to proceed and take it further, or do you want to look for another law firm, right? And the customer is always the one who chooses the law firm, right?
Yeah. How much is the consultation, attorney?
So it's set by, it always depends what you need, right? It's not higher than $200, right? So it's not like, hourly fee of an attorney can be $600, $800, $1,000, right? It always depends on, international matters, but the first consultation is not higher than $200.
All right, folks, you've been very fantastic. There you have it. If you think about something outside of the Philippines and you want to transact in assets outside of the Philippines, think of lead attorney Vera Zambrano. They're all over the internet. They have YouTube. Subscribe to their YouTube channel. Subscribe to their socials. Find them on Google. You consult with them, and they will meet your needs. Lead attorney Vera Zambrano, I will keep you in mind. I know that there will be many clients who will come to me to whom I will give your name. Very much pleasure, lead attorney Vera Zambrano. Thank you so much for taking the time tonight from the United States to speak with me, Attorney Harold Respicio from the Philippines. Any last words, Attorney Vera, till we say bye-bye?
Yes, I'm so glad to be a guest on your show tonight, and I'll definitely keep in touch with your office. You're a great attorney, you're a great law firm. And it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to speaking with you tonight.
All right, very beautiful lead attorney Vera Zambrano, the Miss International Miss World from Germany, United States, and South America, and from all over the world, outside of the Philippines. If you need someone, attorney Vera Zambrano. Thank you so much, and good night.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Radio Respicio!